To the Resilience Hotline with Jess. I just see now more than ever the importance of us as humanity to have real resilience, but not only humanity, right? All of life, all of life needs to be resilient. And we need to take responsibility as humans to support all of life to be resilient. Because right now we're doing a lot of destruction. So, as you can see, the world is not very resilient right now. I'm going to get into it in a minute. I'm realizing now I'm a couple minutes early. So we'll chat. I'm excited to do these every Tuesday, 5 p.m., little live stream on the Resilience Hotline. Important now more than ever for us to come together. That's a huge part of resilience, right? Community coming together, grounded in each individual, becoming resilient. 1+1, that is real resilience, right? Not just relying on somebody else to be resilient, but each of us individually becoming resilient so that together we can become unbreakable, unstoppable. So I'm debating, do I just keep rattling until we start here, or do we start 4:50? Well, actually, perfect. I have 1 minute. I have some tea. Little sound effects. I don't know if my microphone's picking that up. That's some good tea. Wow. That's perfect. So now we can kick things off. So, as I was saying earlier, I was very excited to get started, obviously. Obviously, there's a lot to share. The world is not very resilient right now. Can you see it? Let's read this quote here. What fascinates me is that hardly anyone is wondering what we're actually doing on this planet. Most accept the work, eat, entertainment, sleep cycle as life and have no desire for a deeper understanding of our purpose in this universe. Guys, if you're in that cycle where you're just working, eating, entertaining, and sleeping, realize that that is contributing to the abuse happening in the world. You know why? Because somebody else is taking responsibility for your basic needs, and they're doing it in a way that is not supporting the life around us and us. And so, by you outsourcing meeting your basic needs to somebody else, you're saying, I'm okay with how they're doing it. And so you're saying you're okay with the destruction that's happening. And a lot of people see a lot of the issues in the world, especially when it comes to things like politics and whatnot. And they're like, I'm not interested in that. I'm okay. Yeah, that's for somebody else to look at. But the problem is if we keep outsourcing the responsibility of how we're setting up this world and how we're meeting our basic needs, that means we're actively participating and accepting and allowing how it's being done. And it's in a very abusive way if you haven't noticed. So let's get started here. Do you even know how to grow your own food? All right. So I am 6 years into my gardening journey, and we're also putting lots of effort into a food forest here on our property as well. So all things food production, perennial and annual. And I see, as well as foraging, diving into that. And I see clearly how much effort it actually takes to fuel one human being for 1 year. Most people are totally disconnected from that. I was just thinking about this the other day that what a treasure. What a treasure. Hey, Mitch. He's in the chat. I said, what a treasure it is to have cinnamon in my drawer. An average person would think, what do you mean? Everybody has cinnamon. Guys, think about how much of a luxury cinnamon was in the very near past, where the average person who did not reside where cinnamon grew did not have access to cinnamon. Think about that. Guys, this modern convenience cycle has left us completely out of touch with how reality works and how much effort it actually takes for the common items to be readily available to you. So, it's not only do you even know how to grow your own food, you also have to become aware of how fragile the greater food system really is. And just start looking at the stuff in your cabinets, the things you regularly buy, just start questioning it. Even just starting there. It's like, where is all of this coming from? Who is growing it? How are they growing it? How is it getting to my house? You're probably mm, completely disconnected from a majority of the items, if not all of them. So then start with one small thing. Start small and work your way into producing more and more because it really is one thing at a time, one small step. Because I'm going to go to the next slide here and I think I have some really cool stuff to show you. Okay. It's very small for me. I'm going to see if I can make this big for myself. Oh, I made it big for everyone. Hopefully, I know how to undo that. This is my first time live streaming like this, so we're going to have to make sure I can get myself back here. Okay. Why you need to become resilient now. Okay. So this is kind of funny. I've been posting about this for a few days now, how the Strait of Hormuz is closed and how that impacts distribution of fertilizer and food and all the different things worldwide. And so many people are like, screw the fertilizer. We need to be utilizing feeding the soil in other ways. And I'm totally aware of fertilizer not being the solution, but we've created a system that's dependent on fertilizer. And so there's going to be a period where we have to wean ourselves off. I'll get into that after we read this. That way we can get back to my face. Because I realize I'm just talking and you can't even see me. All right. So 1/3 of global fertilizer trade blocked. Guys, that is a lot of fertilizer. Along with roughly 1/4 of crude oil, 1/5 of liquefied natural gas. All of that went through that same place, and now it's closed. $45 million people at risk of hunger because of this. The countries mostly at risk: India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Somalia, Sudan, Tanzania, Kenya, and Egypt. Guys, that is a lot of people without food. 50% of global I'm not yeah, this is so funny. You can't see me right now, but I'm squinting. I made it big on my laptop and I still can't even see it. Nearly 50% of global urea exports originate. Okay. Yeah, guys, these stats are crazy. So, what is the implicate now I'm over here trying to figure out how to get my face back. Okay, here we go. So what is the implications of all of this? I show you all these fancy stats, right? And you're like, "Yeah, but how does that relate to me?" Well, here in the US especially, and there's traces of this everywhere. We've become very dependent on fertilizer. Again, I'm not saying that's the solution. I'm not saying that we need to continue to be dependent on fertilizer, but I am saying there is going to be a transition period necessary because a lot of food production requires fertilizer right now. And you can't just take barren soil that has been stripped of all of its nutrients and expect it to do what you're wanting it to do in one season. Just suddenly eliminating the fertilizer and expecting the farmers to know what to do to rebuild the soil in a way that it'll still be productive on that level. And two, for the soil to even if you did perfect practices, to be able to perform. I mean, it takes years to rebuild soil. We have, for many years, totally abused the soil here in the United States, especially. And so, yeah, I don't, I'm saying that you got to be aware that there is many, many orchards not going to produce fruit this year. There's many, many fields that are not going to be producing their wheat, their corn, their soybean, their hay, whatever it is, where all of those things were used to not only produce food themselves, but to feed animals. Farms are losing crops or couldn't even plant them in the first place. On top of that, we have a drought. And what happens when you have a drought and soil that is not supported to thrive and be full of life? Well, it cannot retain water. And so if there is no water being added, there's none in there to begin with, and you have no ability to grow anything. Now, if you have soil that is thriving and abundant and full of life, it can be drought tolerant and still grow lots of things. But if we have no water retention and it's a drought and no fertilizer, guys, it is crazy the implications of this. There are people selling off their herds. There's people who are closing down shop. There's so many farmers who are just going, and it's so funny because I can share all of this, and then there's a whole group of people who are like, "Hey, they voted for this. That's their fault." Guys, listen. Why don't we all stop blaming each other and stop playing this two-sided political game? Realize all of the politicians on either side are participating in a system that it does not work. We have to totally restructure politics in order for it to actually be grounded in real principles that consider all life. And I know I'm talking abstractly, but listen, we've seen it. It doesn't work. Okay. This two party system set up the way it is, the whole political sh- the whole political arena right now, it does not work. All it's doing is producing abuse. And so I'm sharing that we all I lost where I was going, this circle that I'm going to come back around on. Oh, so yeah, you can blame one side or the other for all these things that are happening, but at the end of the day, that is your food. unless you are 100% self-sufficient in your food, you will be affected regardless of who you voted for. So yeah, we do need to figure out politics as well. But it's the same thing. We've accumulated so much abuse that there's going to be a transition period that needs to happen. And we've got okay, hello, I'm Jessica Snyder. I live here in Minnesota for anyone who's new here with my husband Mitchell Snyder. If you haven't checked out his live streams yet, they are amazing. You should watch him. He streams every evening or every morning except Sunday morning because he has the Self-Perfected podcast. Who am I? What am I doing? What are we all about? I got into the thick of it so quickly. In 2020, Mitchell and I saw a desperate need for people to be connected in real community. Within that, we've been growing global community since. Here in Minnesota, we host a wide variety of events, and we have people from over 30 different major cities around the world doing the same. Because we see people need to come together. People need to have effective tools to support them to become actually resilient. And in this, our community has many different plans, whether it be political plans, disrupting the entire education system. Like, we've got lots of juicy stuff. Now, mainly on this live stream, I wanted people to start becoming aware of how unresilient we are right now as individuals and collective, how fragile everything really is, if you haven't seen the reality of where everything's going yet. So I'm coming back here. Let's go to the next slide. When the whole world is running towards a cliff, he who is running in the opposite direction appears to have lost his mind. We are in the war for the mind right now. Guys, listen. Not only has your mind been monopolized, and your attention and your focus, your critical thinking ability, down to your ability to process information and your baseline education, all of it has been manipulated specifically to prioritize controlling the population. I mean, look at how the school system is set up. Do you even know who started the traditional education system in the United States? Do you know why they started it? You should go look it up. Okay? War for the mind means not only externally is companies fighting over your mind, fighting over your attention. I mean, there's literally, I think it was back in 2014, they came out with a nanotechnology where they could mine your physical energy. Okay. And I'm not talking some fantasy matrix thing. Okay. This is real, it's patented. Okay. If you need to get into the weeds with all this stuff, you need to watch the Self-Perfected podcast. You need to watch Mitchell, my husband's live streams. You need to watch Cameron Cope's live streams. He's also on the podcast with my husband, Mitchell. Okay, they'll get into the nitty-gritty of all the things. Okay, I'm going to keep everyone starting to become aware of everything. And I'm going to support everyone in this to realize what resilience actually is and how we actually become resilient for real. So not only are we at war for the mind externally, but then you look at the war for your mind internally. How often does how you feel dictate what you do in a day? How often do you require motivation to be consistent with something? Are you even directing yourself? Or is it just your thoughts, emotions, and feelings? And you ask yourself, well, who am I if I am not my thoughts, emotions, and feelings? The programs run deep, my friend. We are literally organic robots. And in your first 7 years of life, you had what's called your natural learning ability. And you absorbed so much information, and most of it gave no context. And most of what you observed was people running on their thoughts, emotions, and feelings. And so that is what you downloaded. And that is who you've identified yourself as. But I'm here to tell you that you can become director of your mind, and you can use your mind to build and create really cool stuff. You can become stable. You don't have to be volatile in your emotions, in your highs and your lows, in your instability, your instability. I mean, think about it. Think about it. If you're constantly just in reaction to anything that happens, and you're only basing what you do on how you feel, and how you feel has simply been determined by your environment your whole life, the people around you. Look at look at the systems in place. Look at the reality of our world. That is literally imprinted into you, and that is how you're living your life. You saw you observed how they distribute food right now. The modern convenience, the fast food industry, the grocery stores. You observed however your family ate food growing up, all these different things, like all the commercials you've seen about food, all the TV shows and movies and everything that you've seen that involved food itself. I mean, you can't even count how many times, like, if you're a woman watching this, how many times have you seen that, oh, when you're on your period, you're just supposed to crave ice cream and eat a bunch of chocolate? Now, I'm not saying there's no benefit in having some cacao while you're on your period. What I'm saying is, what were you programmed to crave during your period? And then you crave it, but you don't realize it's not you craving it. That's a program. And yes, there is a level of tuning into your body and understanding what your physical body needs, but there's also a deep layer of programming there that you have to start looking at and picking through, because you're at the war for the mind within yourself as well as in the world. The world is at war for your mind, and you are at war with your own mind right now. It's in the driver's seat. It's controlling your day to day. So I highly encourage you to, to start becoming aware of how much your thoughts, emotions, and feelings are dictating your day. How much of your mind is being taken advantage of by corporations and the greater elite as a whole. So, the other question I have on here is, will you join? Is this still okay? We're good. Will you join Team Humanity? Now, when I say that, what I'm referring to, because it's so funny, how have people defined humanity? They've literally defined humanity as the fact that we experience thoughts, emotions, and feelings. Guys, listen. You know what that is? That is self-interest only because you're not considering all of life. And I know that sounds abstract, but think about it. That's what's created the systems we have in place now that prioritize profit, control, and power. Self-interest only. On a global scale, that looks like complete destruction of this earth without consideration of the implications of what we're doing and how we've gotten this far into all this accumulated consequence. And yet people are still doing the cycle I mentioned earlier: work, entertain, eat, sleep. Guys, this is the time that we wake up to the reality of how unresilient we are. Because we're backing ourselves into the corner right now, where we're outsourcing all of our basic needs. We're losing the war for our mind. We're becoming literally, like I referenced the Matrix earlier. That's what's happening, guys. That's all that's going to be left. What are you going to do when AI and automation take over your job? And you're reliant on the government to give you money that has stipulations attached that you have to do what they say or you won't get it. And you have to have a good enough social credit score. Have you seen all the flock cameras getting put in? Have you been paying attention to the reality of the world and what they're building and the systems and the implications of it? No? Okay, go watch the Self Perfected podcast. Go watch Mitchell's live stream. Go watch Cameron's live stream. I think Drake just started a live stream too. Go watch all of them. Okay. If you need to become aware of the state of the world, it's not great. And the implications of it are pretty intense. Literally backed up into a corner. And so, we have to choose. Are we going to just ride it out and see how bad it gets and hope that we survive? Or are we going to stop participating in hope and choose to take our power back for real, where we win the war for our minds every day, where we become resilient for real, where we're stable and able to stable, clear, and confident amidst any adversity? Okay? Where no matter what happens, no matter how far we're stretched, we will not snap, we will not break. Where we can stand. Because I know that this system is fragile, and the people running it are even more fragile. So as we each individually become more resilient, there's nothing they can do. So will you join Team Humanity? Okay? Where we can actually find the common ground. We can agree on the fact that we should give as we want to receive, that we should consider all life when making decisions. I mean, basic fundamental things. But the problem is, if you try and just follow those principles without actually taking responsibility for the war for your mind, start taking little by little responsibility for your basic needs, then how are you actually going to live that out? You're just following and not living. Guys, being followers is what created this system the way it is. We don't need followers anymore. Okay? We need leaders. You're like, whoa, what does
Mhm.
that mean? How can we have leaders if there's no followers? Self leaders, people who are leading themselves. That's it. You got to be a self leader. Okay. Join Team Humanity as a self leader, as a resilient individual. So we as humanity can become resilient. So we can live alongside this planet we live on to support our planet to become resilient and abundant. The elite are literally seeing the state of they're seeing the state of their creation and they're like, "Yeah, we know that it's not going well. We know that it's gonna cause this whole earth to go into shambles, so that's why we're making an escape plan to a different planet." Isn't that crazy? And they just keep going because they're losing the war for their mind. They're weak. And they don't think the average person can change. And that's why I'm making this live stream, because I know the average person can change because I changed. It requires specific tools for you to change and real self honesty to change. But what are you going to do? Continue to accept and allow the system that's in place right now? Or are you going to be like, okay, no, we need to do something different? We need to change it up. Yeah, I agree. Welcome, my little. Oh, I think I'm blowing into the microphone. Half my screen is covered, so I'm just trying to navigate here without you losing my video. Again, first time working out the kinks. Guys, I'm I have to make this bigger. I cannot see it. Okay. Whoa. Check this out. 1.4 million young American women creating content on OnlyFans, you guys. It says approximately 95% of these creators are earning less than $3,000 per year from the platform. The average OnlyFans creator makes only $150 to $180 per month. That translates to roughly $1,800 to $2,160 annually. This means the vast majority of young women are creating permanent digital content for what amounts to minimal income that falls well below a livable wage. This is the reality we've created. All of us. We have co-created a reality where this is happening. But it's not only the women creating on OnlyFans. Think about how many people are consuming on OnlyFans. Think about how many people consume other online intimacy. I'm not exactly sure all the different trigger words I shouldn't be using, so I'm being mild here. But think about it. Nobody trusts anybody anymore. People trust global corporations more than they do their neighbor. They don't trust themselves. They don't they have so much social anxiety that they're like, yeah, it's easier to just have a fake intimate relationship with somebody online and in my mind than it is to actually develop real relationships in person with real people. You know why? Because they don't even have a relationship with themselves. I need some tea. This is a juicy slide. Guys, oh, you don't even see me. I'll get better at that. Listen, this is another product of us not being resilient. Do you think if all of these women knew how to and had the resources to meet their basic needs, that they would be on OnlyFans? Do you think if all of these people consuming this kind of content had been supported to not only meet their basic needs effectively, but supported to win the war for their mind, where they weren't impulsed with hypersexuality from a very young age, where they were actually supported to fundamentally understand what that is, to see through how much the system impulses that and uses that to manipulate the population? Guys, what are the two things that is used to manipulate the population? Sex and money. And what does that amount to? Stimulation. Okay. I wonder what percentage of the consumers of that content are married. It's a great question. Mitchell helped me set up this live stream, and he told me, just don't don't look anything else up for this live stream just to make sure that I don't accidentally end it. But he said for next time, he's going to teach me how to, you know, live time look up stats and videos and stuff. So you could look that up for me quick, but I'm I'm instructed not to close out this window for this live stream specifically. But yeah, totally. What's in the chat for anyone who can't see the chat post live is, I wonder what percentage of the consumers of that content are married. Totally. Totally. But isn't that just another consequence for all of us not being resilient? How messed up our relationships are? Our misunderstanding of what a relationship is? All of our starting points of relationships not being effective to begin with? I mean, think about how many people start a relationship simply because they want to feel a certain type of way. How self-interested is that? Just because you feel a certain type of way, you want to make somebody be tied to you? I mean, and then it's just a energy manipulation game the whole time? No wonder why so many people end their marriages. They're just basing a relationship on how they feel. That's crazy. Like, of course, there's people doing all the things that someone who is not resilient would do. I mean, you just look at, it's mathematics of the reality we live in. A plus B equals C. Not being supported to understand how reality works, not being supported to be highly educated, which is really what that means, right? But you have the processing abilities. I mean, guys, over time, I'm going to share more and more about what Mitchell and I do and the tools we share. Because, I mean, in this instance, if someone is raised with these tools and raised with true resilience from both parents and supported to be resilient for themselves, there's so many of these issues that are happening in the world that wouldn't exist. Yeah, that's the reality of it. So let's see. What are we getting into next? Oh, this is perfect. Perfect. If you want to teach people a new way of thinking, don't bother trying to teach them. Instead, give them a tool, the use of which will lead to new ways of thinking. Oh, in the chat. Nice. Three Rock Ranch. I don't know who you are because I don't know your tag, but same person who put, I wonder what percentage of the consumers of that content are married. And according to Grok, I have my own personal information assistant to look this up for me in this moment. 89% are married. Wow. That's an interesting statistic. I wonder where they're getting that information from. Because you wonder how many of the accounts are made with real identities. Because there's likely a lot of underaged, like, high schoolers on there, middle schoolers even. So, go back to this quote. If you want to teach people a new way of thinking, don't bother trying to teach them. Instead, give them a tool, the use of which will lead to new ways of thinking. That's exactly what I'm talking about with these tools that I'm sharing. I'll share more about those over time. But guys, we need to fundamentally shift our understanding of what it is to be human and how we interact with the world we live in. And on one of Mitchell's live streams, he went through a bunch of documentaries that you should watch. Go back, watch that live stream, see all the documentary recommendations. Watch all of those documentary recommendations. Okay. A part of becoming resilient is questioning, why is everything set up the way it is? And why do I interact with reality the way that I do? So, let's go here. My vision for a more resilient world. Oof. Like I said, on this podcast, podcast live stream, I really wanted to help people become aware of how unresilient we are, how unresilient relationships are, how unresilient our relationships with ourself. Okay, we're good. How unresilient the relationship we have with ourself is, and the relationship that we have with the world that we live on. And just really help people become aware that we need to change. Actually, we need to change how we're looking at life, our own, as well as all of life that exists out there. Okay. This game of chasing feeling good now, it it only creates abuse, because that's you losing the warfare mind. Because your mind is just wanting to produce as much energy as possible. Hey, Jess. Another hey, Jess from Mitch. It says my microphone is working. What size diaper is Xander? I'm at the store. Mitchell's amazing. That's my husband in the chat. Mitchell, get him a size 7. And if there is no size 7, because often there is not, we can make do with a size 6. Anyways. Yes. My vision for a more resilient world is that the average person, that every person, even the global elite, they're still people. They take responsibility for allowing their mind to run the show, where they're just running on stimulation. highs and lows, chasing energy. Okay. That's what our system is doing. And look at it, the abuse it's creating. Well, we're participating in that same system within inside ourselves. Okay. So, my vision is that we win the war for our minds. We become resilient for real. We actually understand what it takes to meet our basic needs as humanity intimately in a way where we can globally meet every person's basic needs in a way that does not harm and destruct the planet we live on, in a way where it builds it up, where life is supported to thrive, all of humanity as well as the world. I know that it's possible. I'm 100% certain. So, my vision for a more resilient world is very simple. Humanity decides to stop being a parasite on this planet and becomes a symbiotic organism. And all that is required is we actually win the war for our minds. We become highly educated. And I have 2 tools that literally can do that for you. But you have to want to change. If you don't want to change, the world is not going to change. If you're not willing to question what you participate in and how it affects this reality, then we're going to continue to create what we've been creating, which is not great. So, my vision, my vision is that we all operate off principle of doing what's best, not what feels good, not what looks good, not what you've been programmed to think is right. Because really, what is that? That's just grounded in what feels good. And what happens when we just chase feeling good? What we have now. So that's my live stream for today. I went into a lot of different topics. I've got a plan. I'm not going to say that I'm going to stick to my plan for these, but I've got a good plan for these and I'm very excited. And you'll see me get better at using this whole platform. It's going to be a rowdy time. And I'm excited to share what's worked for me and share my journey of becoming resilient to support everybody out there, every human being, to become more resilient for real. Thank you for joining me. And I'm going to end this